a little tutorial video on QR codes, what they are and how they can be used in the classroom for a range of different purposes, both learning and organisation and whatnot. So if you're not familiar with a QR code, you can see here these little cubes or dice have each face is covered with a different QR code. So they're just a 2D code which can be scanned to produce different sorts of information depending on what you want to use them for. So similar to a barcode, but they have lots of great uses in the classroom. And if you're looking here at these ones with the different dice, these ones have actually been used so that when the lesson is finished, you roll the dice and you are able to scan this code with an app which you'll download onto your iPads or iPhone. And once you scan it, it will either produce a piece of text, it will produce a video, or it will have some sort of voice or some sort of other media. These ones, when they're scanned, will have a reflection question. So to finish off the lesson, the students roll the dice, scan the code, and then follow the prompt to finish their lesson. So that's one way that they can be used in the classroom. But before I go into other ways to use them, what I will do is to show you how you can create them. So you'll just have to bear with me, because what I'll do is actually click through the screen and take you there. So if we open up our internet browser and go to good old Google, there are a few different websites that you can use to create the QR codes. I use two different ones. The first one that I began using is called Kwar, which, if I move that over the way, so you can see there Kwar, and it pops up here, free QR code generator. And there's another one that I use if I do audio, which seems to, for some reason, just work a little bit better with that, but I'll show you that in a minute. So for all your basic QR stuff, this one's fine, it works perfectly. So I'll just wait for that to load up. Okay, so you can see at the top here I already have an account. Now, you don't have to have an account. I've had my children create these. In fact, they were using them the other day in maths because I wanted them to create a word problem and then figure out the answer, but instead of writing the answer underneath it, they had to create the QR code and then put the answer there so that other students could have a go at solving it and then scan to see if they were right or not. So they're actually able to be used without a login. So what you're looking at here is basically it. Okay, you'll click down here, you've got dynamic or static. So you want to click on static. Okay, now there's a little tutorial here that says not sure about static and dynamic QR codes. If you really want to go into which one's best for you, then you can click on that. But in saying that, I've never used the dynamic ones, so it's not really an issue. If you click on more here, it opens up a few different options. So your URL option is if you would like to create a link to another website. So for example, my blog here, if I want to create a direct link to my blog and have it perhaps on a little card or something by your iPad stand or whatever, or the kids could have a copy of it in their diary or in their journal or their books or something like that. So you need to basically just grab the URL. Oh, excuse me. And if it works, I'm used to going between the Mac and the computers at school. Okay, so you copy the URL and go back here and you paste the URL in there and you simply click generate. Okay, so this code that's popped up here after I've clicked generate, all I need to do now is to right click on that, copy the image, paste it into a Word document and print it off basically and use it however I wish. So it's as simple as that. So if I were to scan this right now on an iPad, it would take me directly to my blog straight away without having to type anything in or anything like that. So especially for the kids in the early years, if there's different websites that you want them to go to, it might be for an inquiry project or something like that, and they're using the iPads, rather than waste 20 minutes having them type in the URL, then you can simply, I know that I've got an image here somewhere, which I'll just show you, which I thought was a really good idea, which has, oops, this one here, which has frequently visited class sites, and you can see there that they've created a little laminated card there with a picture of the website that they want to, and there's the QR code there, and they're on a keyring there. I thought that was a really good idea, especially in the early years, because you could just have that hanging on a hook or something that's accessible for the kids, and they can quickly scan it and go straight there. So that's a really good one. I know that there's a bit of an argument as to typing in the URL and is it a skill that the children should have, and I think it definitely at some point in time they do need to be able to do that, but you just need to think about the purpose of your lesson, and if the purpose is, going to Spelling City and practicing their spelling, then you don't want them to waste 20 minutes on the URL. Basically, typing in a URL is an ICT skill, so if you just need to think about the purpose of the lesson there. So that's one thing that you can do with them. As I said, if you click more, you can also add in text, which I've done before as well. Now, Kaiwa only allows you the 160 characters, so you're limited with the amount of text that you can put on there. However, I have created a QR code, basically like a treasure hunt type get to know you activity. I've created a QR code with the number 1 or whatever beside it. The kids will scan the code and it will ask them a question, and then they'll have to answer it and keep record of that perhaps. I've done one with shapes where I placed different QR codes in the playground, and for maths they scanned the first one, and if they solved it correctly, it would then lead them into a new area of the playground to hopefully find the next clue. So they had to sort of follow it that way. If you're in the early years, you could use it as a self-check thing. Just yesterday as well in maths, we're doing simplifying fractions. So I have a lot of task cards that have some fractions. The children have to have a go at simplifying them. Then they can quickly scan the code and check if they're wrong or right. I guess you run the risk of them just cheating anyhow, but the kids don't tend to do that because they actually, I think they have a bit of a safety net knowing that they've got that help there, and they'll know immediately and have that immediate feedback whether they're wrong or right. So with the text one, let's, for example, say, I remember when I did my Get to Know You one, I'll say, what is Mrs. Sinnott's favourite colour? Now, if I press return, I'm going to use up some of my characters, so I simply went A, purple, oops, if I could spell properly, that would help. A, purple, B, red, and C, black. And then I click generate, and it does its thing. And then here's my code over here. When the kids scan it, they'll get this question, and then they had to note down the answer for it. So if I were doing that, I would copy this and accompany it with a number so that they weren't confused, and I wasn't confused because some of them look very similar. Okay, now basically that's what you can do with the text option and the URL options. Now I will quickly show you what you can do with your voice option here. So I'm just heading to this website. This was a good one where I found first found that you could add audio to your QRs. It's just taking a little bit of time to roll over. So while I'm waiting for that, I'll just explain what this lady has done. You can see here. She works in the early years and is using QR codes in there. So she's made a fun word game with QR codes, you can see, and basically had all of the sight words. So I'm assuming it looks a bit like prep or possibly grade 1. So she's created these herself, and you can find heaps of free stuff with them already created, but sometimes it's nice to create them for your own class, and you can individualize them, and they'll hear your voice, which is a little bit more meaningful for them. So what she's done is create a game where the children, you can see here, it was like a farm theme or something like that, and they had their little scanners here and then lots of words and stuff as well. So they had to scan the code and it said find the word you, for example, and then they'd look through the little tub with the little chicken thing or whatever it was, and they would try and find the word you. If they found one that they thought it was you, they would take it and scan it, and it would actually say whatever was on that card. So if they mucked it up and they picked the word your, they'd scan it and it would say your, so they'd know straight away that they were wrong, and they'd put it back and then they'd try again to find the right one. So it's helping them to recognise their words, and it sort of gives them that instant feedback and management, I guess, without having the teacher there all the time. So to add audio to your QR code, we visit this website here, and I've just gone to the picture, not the website, so hang on a second. Okay, so recordmp3.org, and it pops up like this. Okay, it gives you a little bit of info. Basically, okay, I've got it. You need to allow the camera and microphone use, so if you don't click that, it won't work. It's fairly self-explanatory. Then what you do is to basically record your voice. I've tried, what I've done as well with the recording option is at the beginning of this year, I got my kids to read a couple of pages of their novel or their book that they were reading into here, and we saved it as a QR code and put it in our English books. And that was for the purpose of revisiting it at the start of each term to listen to our reading and see if the kids can identify perhaps things that they need to work on with their reading. So that's another option to use that there. So I'll just keep talking and recording it and just show you how it works. So you can, it can be as long or as short as you like. The longer it goes, however, the longer it takes to load. So I'll just stop here. If you were using just single words or something like that, then you wouldn't take that long anyway. Another thing that you could do with it, and I've thought of doing and hope to implement next term, is that you could give feedback this way. So in their books, if they'd written a story or something like that, rather than for you to scroll some notes on there, giving them tips or telling them how they could edit their work or what have you, you could simply record a few ideas of your voice and you could paste a QR code into their book, and then they could scan it and hear your advice that you've got from them. Or alternatively, you could paste one in their diary and it could be a little note going home to the kids' parents saying, Joe had an amazing week, blah, 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 whatever you like to do. So the possibilities are really endless. Anyhow, we've finished that recording. So you simply click save recording. If you muck it up, obviously you click Start Over. Once you've clicked